Well, do you have an idea or a passion for a ministry or a small business, but feel overwhelmed by all the hurdles you might have to overcome? Maybe you've thought about how to do something big, but you don't understand how to start with technology. Well, if this is you, you're going to want to listen to this episode on running a ministry using technology. Stay tuned. Well, this is Tech Tips for Seniors, a show with tips for seniors or anyone really on how to better use technology in your daily lives. And I'm your host, Bruce Ciotta, and my guests today are Paul and Joyce Ciotta. Paul's my brother, and Joyce is his wife, and they have a ministry called Communicating with Purpose. And I'm super excited to have them on the show, so welcome you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're glad to be with you. Thank you for asking us. We feel honored.
Great. Well, I've always admired the way you two take your ministry seriously and how you use so many technology tools that are available today. Before we get into that, can you just introduce yourselves and also share how you came to be passionate about what you do?
Well, we have a very interesting story that this ministry that we have started only about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. Joyce and I are newlyweds of sorts. We both lost our spouses to pancreatic cancer, and we actually married in July of 2022. And the whole ministry actually started was I was working with her to help rebuild a website for her so that she could continue her music career. And we realized that as we were having these discussions, we had gifting that would complement each other. And as those conversations grew, we actually started what ended up morphing into Communicating with Purpose. Now the ministry has grown significantly so that we've been able to take it now full time. We were working in another ministry which is called America's Keswick, which is an addiction recovery and conference ministry. We have since begun to transition away from that and now take this ministry full time.
Yes, and we've seen social media and tools being used in that ministry, and it's kind of gotten our juices flowing. We've seen other people use tools like this. So it's not only music, but it's speaking and counseling and life coaching, and Paul writes devotionals that we were trying to figure out how to get the devotions out. Do we just share them with our list of emails and just mail them out to people? But, we're looking for platforms of ways to get those things out. And so we're just like, this is who we are. This is how God gifted us. Now, going forward, we weren't ready to be done in ministry, even though our partners were gone. And so we had to figure out how to do life together and how God could use our giftings. And that's what Communicating with Purpose was. Paul has a background in communications. And I always said that I don't look at myself as much as a musician, but a communicator using music as an avenue to communicate.
And that's where our ministry actually started to take off when we realized that God had gifted us uniquely with but those that are unique gifts also connected amazingly so that we were able to not just do ministry together but to partner in ministry together.
And you can't minister without connecting with people. And I think one of the things that we learned through COVID and then through my late husband's illness and cancer treatment was that we weren't able to be with people because of COVID, but it was through internet, it was through Facebook, through Caring Bridge. That's the one. Again, that's a different, just if you've known somebody that's been sick and you wanted to keep up on updates and things like that. That's using something that is available and learning how to use it so that you can communicate. You learn how to use it when you find a need for it, and then you dig into it.
Right.
And you're a recording artist too, right, Joyce? I mean, you said musician, but you've done quite a few. I know your beautiful voice. You've sung it at America's Keswick. I don't want to let that go without notice here.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, that's the thing I have sung and recorded over the years. I don't know, maybe 10 total projects, and just am completing a hymns project and working on getting it all put together and duplicated to get out to people. And, you know, those things are posted now in the last, you know, 6, 7 years, maybe 10 years, I guess longer. You can have your music put directly to YouTube. So you can listen to, you know, the company sends it directly to YouTube, and people can access it through my name and listen to songs. I used one of those songs to share with somebody. I found it on YouTube, copied the link. You know, if you're looking at it, it says share. If you share it, you can go to your email or your Facebook or your message and say paste. And that takes that link and pops right into that. If it ministers to me, I am able to share it with somebody else. So, you know, having your ministry out there and available, you know, you never know who it's going to touch.
And for those who are watching, who are used to the olden days when we used to have vinyl records, and you could, you know, had 33 and 78s and 45s. No more. It's now and that changes the dynamic, because in not too long ago, Joyce used to have CDs pressed, and now people aren't buying CDs because they don't have CD players in their cars. So we've had to cut back on the number of CDs and increase the number of USBs that have the recording on them. Plus, there are digital downloads that they can come off of our website, so they can buy the album online, and if they don't want to spend the money, they just go to Spotify and say play Joyce Ciata.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And bingo, and so we don't get any kickback from that. But the beauty of that is that the message is still getting out to a broader group of people.
Right, and Bruce, I think the one thing that you're doing is helping us to look at technology and how we can use it, and making it available to us. That's really a powerful tool that you're giving us, because being able to, we could just say, I don't want to do that, I don't want to mess with all that, but we'd be missing out on opportunities to make Christ known. That's our job.
Right.
You guys have already launched into it pretty deeply already, so I just wanted to say that the main reason why I have you on the show today is just to talk about things that I think our audience would find interesting about ways you get the word out in your ministry and how to leverage technology to do it. And so you've already thrown out some terms that kind of sometimes our audience to say, USB, you know, what is that? How does it work? But we talked about that in our last episode on cables and connections, and certainly what you're referring to is using USB as a connection point to get your song onto a memory stick, right? And now people can
would be probably yes.
Yeah,
Right.
people can listen to the recording through that means. And I actually wasn't that familiar with the fact that music is distributed in that way today. Of course, with all the streaming that is out there today for music, people don't always go to the other uses that are available. So, but can you just explain maybe stepping back a little bit, just what are some of the primary tools that you use today in the basics of your ministry that are technology related? And
Well,
if you can just explain like maybe 2 or 3 of those top technology uses.
Well, I can share with you this is kind of how it got started, seeing how we could work together and use technology. We were on our honeymoon, and we were down in Hawaii, and we were in front of a beautiful waterfall. I think the tallest waterfall in Hawaii, maybe, I don't know, there was they explained it.
They
But
said-
I
that's what
I
the
said, look
guide
at that
said."
beautiful waterfall. I said, Paul, and I just turned my iPhone on him, and I said, I'm going to just video you talk for 1 minute about what scripture, what comes to mind as you inspire somebody through this beautiful scene. And he took a psalm, and he just for a minute just talked in front of this, you know, he's got a reporter background, so he put on his reporter hat and he just talked. I mean, we didn't plan it, we just started doing it, and we posted it. So what I did is I used my phone to record a video. Then I took the video through my phone. It's just saved like you would a picture. And then on my phone, it comes with an app called iMovie. And I opened the iMovie app and it walked me right through it because I didn't have a lot of training on, in this. And it allowed me to take that picture, make it a little fancier. I was able to cut it because I always tell Paul that if he goes more than a minute, I'm going to trim it and cut it out.
That's kind of natural for Paul. You kind of have to expect to trim some of the extended out here.
Yeah, so it was, I'm using those tools, I didn't pay extra for them. And then after I created the iMovie, it saves it right back in my pictures. And so it's accessible. And if you go to YouTube, you can upload that video to YouTube. These are things that I learned, but it wasn't, we talk about, we are seniors. I'm not a senior, but I'm close. And these things weren't, I'm not a kid, so it didn't grow up in it like our kids did. Mm-hmm. And so this was all new to us, and we're just learning as we go. So that would be the first thing. We learned how to do videos and put them on YouTube and make them available to people.
All right, so let me just stop you right there and just say you described taking a video with your camera, modifying it in iMovie. Actually, I think I could see a whole show just on iMovie. And then you said you uploaded it. So that's another big technology word that sometimes intimidates people, but it just means putting it up into an internet place. And the place you chose was YouTube. So you had at least 4 different uses of technology in this spontaneous moment that turned out to be, I guess, fortuitous for you to be able to do things further in your ministry. Like, where did that take you in your ministry then to get going with videos?
We started to do 1-minute videos, 2-minute videos, and then 3-minute videos, and each of them, one little snippets, something that Joyce may sing, a Bible verse. We use technology to help people memorize Bible verses because in music you sometimes can remember things to a tune rather than just trying to get all the words in the right order. The second part of that was we called them 2x2s, that 2 people sharing for 2 minutes. and that was a platform that we were able to get a Bible message off in a very short period of time because, again, attention span isn't terribly long for us. Thank you very much to those who are watching Reels and all sorts of other Facebook kinds of things.
And then we did 3-minute videos where I challenged Paul. He's a preacher, and I challenged him to give me a sermon in 3 minutes. And so he had to have 3 points in 3 minutes, or traditional 3 points.
Right.
I remember that there's an old quote that I don't remember who it was attributed to, who said, I didn't write you a short letter. I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long letter instead, because it takes more thinking.
It does. That's right.
So it really takes some practice to get it short and concise and organized. So that was really the genesis for our video end of the ministry. But since that time, we've branched out and done it we went back to the old-fashioned way, which is print.
Well, Paul's a writer. I call him the word guy. I have a friend, Christine Wurtzen, who I get an email from her, and I read her devotion. And I was like, that's what Paul needs to do. And so I didn't know how to do it. I went down to the bottom of her email that I received, and it gives instructions there. It tells who made it possible. It tells the company. And on the bottom it said Constant Contact. So I looked up Constant Contact and I found out how to go about doing that ourselves, just because I was curious and I looked at what was available. And so now there's other avenues available, but we use that platform to be able to create an email and send it out.
It's somewhere around 2,050 people who are getting these emails. And again, there are some people, we also, in that technology, we're able to, like good marketing, which businesses oftentimes will use, you can see who's opening them, who's not opening them. Do we need to resend it? Do we have that we have a capability to send that email out again for those who didn't open it? We can track not only who received it, but how often they get it and who the most active users are. So there's a lot of metrics that we can use in that can be applicable
Let me interrupt you because I think you touched into a whole area that I don't think many of my listeners would know much about. But you're talking about a service or a platform that's called Constant Contact,
Yes.
and this is a service that you can distribute emails to a large number of people at one time, right? And you manage the list through that service, and that service then gives you the ability to post a message to a group of email users.
But the beauty of that, and for the greater good, for those who may want to use something like this, if you had, for example, just for Christmas lists, if you wanted to do something for Christmas, you could apply the same sort of principle. And if you have like 200 people that you send Christmas cards to, maybe you want to send them Christmas emails instead. So that's just an application that, and businesses use it all the time for promoting sales and for special deals and other things. We're just using the application to share the word of God to those who choose. And the beauty of that is if you are signed up for it, you can opt out of it, which we find that some people who have happened along on our page and they sign up for it and they say, well, I'm getting too many emails, so they will drop us. We'd rather them drop somebody else, but instead they drop us. So, but it's just it's just one technology that we're using.
We
For
had a
what-
show on that, excuse me, Joyce, that just
Yeah, no,
talked
good.
about that exact thing because sometimes people are getting too many emails and they have to be able to manage them. And so we talked a little about the method for unsubscribing to messages that you're not looking for. These are people who, those that remain, that 2,050, are people who want to get your devotional and they're choosing to be on your list, right?
That's right. And if the nice thing is that we can see that company, Constant Contact, gives us a report of how many people opened the emails, how many people clicked on the emails, how many, they give you the diagnostics and tell you. And that makes it interesting to know. We may not hear from all those people, but we can tell how many people clicked on them right away, how many people opened them on their phone, how many people opened them on their computer. It's crazy what they can do.
And because we also know where they are, we can help to tailor some of those messages that we're getting out to their geographic location. So I know, for example, that if I'm going to write a devotional and I'm talking about, my New Jersey background, and I'm talking about something that only a Jerseyan would know about, I may alienate an element of my readers in that. So it's good data for us to understand that. And it's one thing we should mention. Yes, we're a little older. Yes, getting this ministry started came a little later in life. I oftentimes will tease to say most of my high school and college classmates are currently planning their retirement in Boca Raton. And here I am, busy trying to get a ministry started at the same age. But, God uses anybody at any age to do his work and to join him in his work. I was just sharing with Joyce that, got to remember Moses started a new career at the age of 80 and led 1.5 million people out of Egypt toward the promised land. So if we keep that in mind, this is nothing. I still got a few more years ahead of me.
And some people in the audience may are not looking for a new career, not looking to start a ministry, but they do have an interest in some of these things maybe as a hobby. And so it's fine to use the same tools and capabilities. You don't have to necessarily even subscribe for a fee to some of those services. I know I use a mail program called MailChimp, and because I have a low distribution of number of people who receive the message, it's all free. So I don't even pay anything to have the service. But anyway, that's good. The email example is a good example. Let's move on to maybe another area. I think you had, because you guys recently moved, right, to the Poconos,
Right.
or maybe even before, you do some of your work using online and remote capabilities. I wonder if you could talk a little about that for the audience.
Yes, and the first thing is that I work for America's Keswick, and we use like a software to contact our donors and to thank them for gifts. That is all accessible on our computers. And so through my computer here, 2.5 hours away, I can get a list and I can call and I can mark and say I've called. And so I can work right from here. I can also, our phone system at our work is accessible through an app on my phone. And I didn't, I can sit here and use that app to make calls so that I'm not giving away my personal phone number. It's all through that. So it actually, it's coming from the work, my work at America's Keswick, not from my phone, my personal cell phone. So that's kind of a neat thing that, taking advantage of, how all those people worked, during COVID, the way that technology expanded during that time, because we had to create ways for people to work from home. And so we're just taking advantage of something that is available to us. I'm thankful that they're allowing me to do that. So
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't even know that existed.
isn't that crazy?
The key piece of our ministry is counseling and life coaching. That's one of the expanded areas that when we were on our honeymoon in Hawaii, we didn't even consider that to be part of the ministry, because in my role at America's Keswick, I'm a counselor and pastor and chaplain at the addiction recovery side of the ministry. So by ministering to men who are coming out of addiction to realize that the only hope that they have is a relationship with Jesus Christ, that we're realizing that we can expand that and to include marriage counseling and premarital counseling, relationship counseling, life coaching. Joyce is a certified life coach and marriage and family coach, and those elements are now doable on Zoom, which has given us a tremendous number. Now, there are a lot of video programs that are available that are inexpensive and free. FaceTime for those who are of an older generation, for them to look at their smartphones and communicate with their grandkids like we do with ours. We're able to, hey, I see the kids, hey, this is great, you guys look great, blah, 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 it's great. But for the business end of what we're trying to do, we can use Zoom to share a screen. So if we wanted to do a presentation, we can do that, with them to walk through certain learning opportunities that way.
We're right. You're using a tool like that right now to allow us to share a screen with you. We can see you, and you're recording this so that you can get this out. It's another tool you're using. I believe. What is it you use? We use Zoom.
Yeah, this is something that Spotify now has built into its podcasting platforms. It's something called Riverside, which is included with the Spotify service. And so that's just another. But yeah, the Zoom is something people learned a word during COVID, that they didn't know before, right? So Zoom is now a household word, and it has to do with this video calling with one another, and sometimes groups, because you don't have to limit it to just two people having a conversation. You can join a whole group together. And then what you just mentioned, which I think is maybe new to some people, is that you can display on your screen, share a screen that you have on your computer with the group or the individual using the same tool. It's built right into Zoom, where whatever's displayed on your computer can be shown to the other end. I use that in the technology realm when I'm helping somebody who doesn't know how to do something on their computer, and I'll say, well, just let's go on Zoom, and then you can just show me your screen, and I'll see what you're looking at, and I can tell you what to click on and kind of talk people through that. So there's many different uses. I'm part of this show is to get people to think outside of just starting a ministry, but using these tools in other ways that they might find helpful to them. So
I'm sorry, I was only going to share that one of the areas that we're learning is that we can use this technology to connect with people. And that's really what the goal is. It's not something cool to do. Great example, Zoom is being used a great deal to do Bible studies. What you normally would do with small groups in person, you can now do in Zoom, because you can have multiple people joining a conversation, having your host be your Bible teacher or being the Bible facilitator, and able to connect all those people who can add to it and have offline notes that you can keep as you go along. The session can be recorded and played back later for people who may not have been able to attend that Bible study. So there's great opportunity to share the Word of God, much like business does. When you have a webcast talking about a widget that they're trying to sell. Now we're applying that to sharing God's Word, and that would be, Jesus is not a product, but the technology can be used to share that information, giving people the option of whether they want to incorporate his life into your life, which makes it all that much more valuable. You were going to say.
Yeah, we have, in doing counseling and life coaching, there's nothing that replaces sitting face to face with somebody across the table with them or in a room together. But we had what we've been learning through the courses that we've been taking through the internet, through getting accreditation through classes that we take, is that as far as doing Zoom counseling or Zoom life coaching, that's many of the people that we're learning from, that's the way that they teach or the way that they coach is to do it by Zoom. And they said at first their clients don't want to do Zoom, but once they try it, they say, oh, I love Zoom. Now we've found that same thing. We've met with some people who definitely wanted to be in person, but this couple is doing premarital counseling. One lives one place, one lives about 45 minutes away. They both have kids, so their schedules are crazy. Finding a time when all of us can meet at the same time is difficult. But when we first started doing it in Zoom, now the man said, oh, Zoom is the way to go. I love it because it doesn't take the time of travel or, it's just sit down for an hour and it is very personal. It's amazing. You're in Arizona and this has been great to just sit and visit with you and see you, as long as I can see you.
Yeah, I don't think, one of the ways I like to think about it is that, like you said, up close, personal, and over time is what we define as the way to disciple people. It's got to happen real time. But in the case of using a Zoom as an example of a technology, is it gives you a greater audience because there are a lot of people that you can't meet with in person. I recently had someone contact me who wanted to do some discipleship work, and I said, sure. And then he said, oh, by the way, this friend of mine is in Hong Kong. And I said, oh, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for me to meet with him for coffee, but we could do something using a technology, and that's exactly what we did. Well, we're kind of out of time, but before we do, I wanted to just ask you to speak to the newbie, because that's something that's really important in this show, and one of the ways I always try to wrap things together for people who have never tried any of the things that you're talking about, maybe interested in starting a business or a ministry, using the tools that are available, but they don't know where to begin. It's sort of overwhelming for them. So what word of advice would you have for somebody who's thinking about starting into that and wants to start small?
We talk about this, and this is not a glib statement when I say that. For us, the most important thing that we've done is pray, because like everything else, you can't do this by yourself. We need heavenly guidance. We need God's wisdom to take us to where we need to go. And in that, we need to recognize that God in his sovereignty brings the people to us that can help us to this and point us in the right place. And he's above technology, so sometimes happening along something on the internet, bang, it shows up. So
that's right. No man is an island, for sure. And we were trying desperately to get 100 people to follow us so we could have people see our videos. And we just didn't know how to do it, and we were trying our resources. But then it found our son-in-law said, you know what? I've been doing some studying on this, and I can help you with this. And so he came alongside, and that's how we got 2,000 people, because he knew how to navigate in ways that we didn't. He thought in a younger way. And so we learned from him and we asked for help.
Right.
So asking
Okay.
other people for help.
Right, and that's huge because it's the same as what you're doing in this podcast is sharing data in a platform that others can pick and choose what would work for them is the same way that we had to do it. One of the other things that I give Joyce a great deal of credit is she's fearless. She's not afraid to try new things. If she's trying a certain, right, you know, you don't have to subscribe for a year to a lot of these new technologies that she's attempted. You can do month by month. Try it for a month. If it doesn't work for you, dump it. Go on to that something else. Usually, because of the speed, the way the technology is moving. At one time, you follow Moore's law, which was every 18 months technology turns over. Well, I think now it's 18 minutes because it just continually moves and gets better and faster and easier to use. And there are different price points for everything. So again, don't be afraid to try something and be like Joyce. Be fearless and
Well,
take a risk.
Watch what other people are doing, get ideas from other people, and that are culturally relevant. I'll never forget this. I think it was James Dobson that said, not James Dobson, I think it was Chuck Swindoll that said, when we stick our head in the sand, we leave a very vulnerable part of our anatomy sticking up. Don't just look around at what people are using and what's drawing attention, and then modify it. See how it will work for you.
And if it doesn't work, try something different.
Yeah.
Don't get stuck. Don't. If for those who are watching, churches will oftentimes not be willing to take an additional risk to try something new because they're afraid they're going to alienate the people who are in the church body. Take incremental risks and try new things. The only thing that we can say that you shouldn't change is the message.
Mm-hmm.
Your message has to be, and the message of Christ is eternal. It's fact. It's truth, and that hasn't changed in even all the weirdo stuff that we're trying to do. That's the same. That doesn't change. And if for any reason that our technology is driving the message, it's not a good technology.
Yeah. Wow, you guys, it seems pretty obvious to me. You guys have quickly filled this time slot with lots of good stuff. We need to do another show sometime. I think I would really. It's been a special thing for me to get you guys on the show in the first place, but I can see we have much more to talk about. So thank you guys. I really enjoyed talking. I have to bring this to a close, but I just want to say thank you for being on, and thank you to our listeners for joining us. Be sure to check out our show notes. We'll talk about some further information in there, and for helpful links that may have been mentioned, I'll put some in the show notes. If you have questions or comments, please leave a note in the comments section, or you can write to me at techtipsforseniorspodcast@gmail.com. Paul and Joyce, thank you guys very, very much for being on the show today. And I look forward to another opportunity to cover some more of the fun things. Good luck in the move and all the new stuff with this ministry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for everything you've done.
Enjoy the sunshine out there in Arizona.
We're enjoying the snow out here.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.